All right, and welcome back to another little vlog here. And so we're starting off the clip with a shot of the pond with the fish that we adopted when we moved in. They were just here to begin with, but yeah, I was kind of focusing on showing Peachy there because they were originally orange and then rapidly turned white. But it is a little sad because unfortunately, not too long after this clip, Peachy did pass away. They were white for a couple months, just to make that clear, that it wasn't like, I'm not sure why they passed away, but the other ones are still going strong. But then we move into the clips of my first event that was in November, which was another one of the markets down in the city near me, which was really fun. And it was cool because one of my friends was also giving it a go with tabling. And she does a lot of fun stuff with dolls and animal things. It's fun. It's a little spooky, but I love it. So yeah, I wanted to show off her table for this video. You can follow her online. I also wanted to show a clip because I realized I never showed what my table looks like when it starts to get dark. Because again, this market kind of runs from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And since it's November, it gets dark fairly fast right now. So yeah, I have these little lights. I want to add some more lights, maybe something to hang from like the center of the tent at some point. I need to look into what I want to get for that. But yeah, just kind of showing off what that table looks like. Then we move into clips where I went to a little masquerade ball that wasn't that good, but I sure did look good. I loved this outfit and it definitely worked pretty well with what I wanted to do for it. So that was fun. Of course, what's one of my vlogs without some little food clips? And of course, another clip of the fish. I think in this clip you can maybe see the third blackfish. Yes, you can. It's kind of hard to see them, but they're very active at night. Hey guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and unpack the tiny clips that I took of the last event that I had for this year, which was the Norfolk Anime Fest. And this was a con that I kind of accidentally booked myself, which how that happened was when I was at, was it Haunted Screams Expo? When I was talking to some of the other vendors, they mentioned this con because they knew people who went to it and had, you know, some good success with it. So I was like, oh, okay. So I immediately go and looked it up on my phone while I was at that con. And I started filling out the application and like, you know, all the typical questions, whatnot. And then I put in, like, at the end, they were like, oh, put in your preferred payment method. So I'm like, oh, okay. Because I've applied to a few other cons where it's like they do ask for that payment information ahead of time. Obviously, so that they can, if they choose to have you go in, they automatically like send you an invoice, charge it, whatever. And so I put in the payment information and it was just like, oh, there you are, you're booked. There was no like review of my application. It was just an automatic booked con for me. I was just like, I was not expecting that. I was expecting, you know, wait to hear back if I got in or not. So that was not the case with this. So automatic application had a spot in there, and I did the artist alley. And again, as a reminder, how I kind of view whether a con was successful for me or not is purely based off the metric of how much did it cost me for the space, for the table, whatever it may be, and did I make back the table, and what did I make beyond that? So obviously, if I don't break even, I don't make at least the table amount, I'm like, fuck this. So the table for this one cost $100, which is not bad. Now it is a one-day con. So, and they said it was a 6-foot table, whatever. Pretty standard description of what you got. So I didn't think much of it. So here comes the day. It was on a Sunday, which worked perfect for me because that's typically one of my days off from my full-time job. So pack up everything, head to Norfolk, and this was happening inside a hotel, nothing new to me. So we walk in, and I don't know if they had any other stuff set up elsewhere in the hotel. I didn't really go exploring this time around. I usually do like a little walk around, whatnot, see what's going on. Did not do that. So yeah, you go in to this one little hallway, and there's a shit ton of tables all squished next to each other. Like every single table was touching each other, which is something I've never experienced, never seen before. Usually there's space between tables. Even if it's not a lot of space, it's still like enough for a person to walk in between two tables. And then I think they just had like two very small conference rooms for the, the vendors, which was like $50 more than the artist alley table, I guess. The artist alley. So find my table, it's squished next to another one, and I start setting up my stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, I can't even fit all of my stuff on here. Like my normal setup on a 6-foot table, I could not do it. I was like, what the fuck? So later on, my partner like measured the table, and yeah, it was more like a 5-foot table, not even a 6-foot table. So I was just like, whatever. So that was a little bit off-putting, was the fact that there was like no room. And it was even more off-putting that because they had all of these tables stuck together, and they had it, one side of this little hall had tables, the other side against the windows also had tables. And again, this was not a very wide hallway. So the walkway for guests to go through was like not even 2 people wide. Like it was so narrow. And immediately as I'm setting up my stuff, I'm like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like if there's a decent amount of people, they're gonna be sardine canned through this walkway to get through and see everybody. It's gonna be a traffic jam. If somebody has a big cosplay, like, gear on, they're gonna be smacking into everything. And sure enough, yes, I had more than one person like kind of like not only like kind of push my table, like they were rocking my table because they were leaning against it again to like scooch and make room for somebody else to come through. Yeah. And then also like just as they're walking by, I literally had somebody who walked by so fast and their stuff like brushed my print setup, that prints flew out. Luckily another person, and again, it wasn't like I had room to like immediately go around my table and pick up stuff. No, I had another person next to me and it was like very tight quarters, obviously. Luckily another attendee like saw and was able to grab my stuff for me and hand it back to me. So yeah, it was just kind of a nightmare for that. Like I've never attended a con where it was that sardine canned for the tables. So even when I did Tidewater HorrorCon for the first time and I was in one of the rooms, like the tables were very close together, but there was still like enough of a sliver of a space that I could walk between me and my neighbor. And that was still really tightly packed. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know if this is a error on the fact that it's just an automatic booking for the tables. So it's like they have too many people who apply and they have to make room somehow. So the last thing I'll say is obviously like everybody was pretty, like who I interacted with, who were like doing the con stuff were nice. Like nothing bad to say about that. Again, I just really did not like the setup. I don't think it was good. And as far as attendance wise, there was a decent amount of people. Like there was definitely a lot of people walking through. But again, because of the way that the tables were set up and how narrow the walkway was, I literally heard people who like came near my stuff and like they were kind of curious, but they felt bad stopping because it literally was blocking the flow of traffic if they wanted to stop and look at something, which was horrible. Especially for me, again, then this is my own like downside of my setup, and I'm aware of it. This is not to go to anybody else. It is my own thing. I have my prints set up. I have a sample print of everything inside, my little like organizers. You have to look through them to see everything. I don't have any kind of display that like displays every single print that I offer like right there. Should I have something like that? Maybe that's something to consider in the future, but I kind of like my whole point of doing that was the whole point of it makes the attendee have to stop and sit there and like look through it. So it gives them time to actually like, it's a double-edged sword where it's like, yeah, is it great to just have them be able to walk by and just see something, point and go? But also I kind of like to like, yeah, that's one way to do it. Or again, I like them to like sit there and look through it because then they get to sit there with the artwork. I hope that makes sense.
again, that's my whole thing. But that whole thing was a big downside to this particular con. And I don't think I was the only issue, like the only person who had that issue. The other funny thing, now this is the one downside to, I guess, the obvious like organization of this con was my table neighbor who was an author. At the end of the day, which the hours for this were 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So kind of like an 8-hour day, I guess. I didn't count, 7-8 hours. It's something like that, guys. But the setup time was only from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. So you had to get there. But at the end of the day, my neighbor was like, yeah, I think I paid for a vendor space, like a space inside the room, which they had more room to like go around. And I was just like looking at her like, girl, you need to go get your fucking money back. Or again, see if they can apply that money to another one of their cons, because they have other ones that they do in different locations. So, which I'll get into my opinion for myself. So I feel bad for my table neighbor, because if she paid $50 more and was stuck in that shitty kind of setup of the table, not even a 6-foot table, mind you, they advertised that it was a 6-foot table. This was not a fucking 6-foot table. I couldn't eat. So yeah, in my setup, I only was able to set out my prints, one of my like sticker displays, and I could only put up like a tower of my grates. I couldn't even do like my little cross thing. So I couldn't display more prints even if I wanted to. And I could not set up any of my original like portfolio books, which is something I've been doing this year, is like setting those out. And I have people who buy the original pieces, which is great. Because one, it frees up room for me to make more like newer pieces. And obviously it's a little bit of a higher price point for my originals than it is for print, which is nice. So yeah, getting into that point, how did I do with this con? So again, the table cost $100. My total amount that I made from this con, from like an 8-hour time span, was $147, which means I only made $47 profit. For me, that's not great. Like, it's all right. At least I broke even with the table. I made a little bit of profit, but that's like, unless I make at least like $100 more profit than like whatever the table cost is, I'm like, this was a waste of my time, is how I kind of, again, that's not to shit necessarily on the con itself or anything like that. It was a very small con. Again, I think there were issues with the organization. I think that's I would say, put a better cap on how many people you allow in, because I don't think that was a good table setup, and I don't think it helps. Other than that, it was like I would say this is an all right con. It wasn't horrible, you know. So as far as like what I sold 2 stickers. So I would say this was a con where I sold way more of my 5x7 prints, because I definitely did. I sold quite a few of those. Once again, my one most like popular print almost sold out of all of those, which I didn't have many of them left anyway. I only sold one of the 4x6 prints, but again, I only have 4 options for that, because that was something I was like playing around with initially, was having those really small prints. But that's something I just, from my experience of doing this, I don't think it's really a print size that a lot of people like. So, or like, it's not a print size that a lot of people gravitate towards to begin with. So it's not one I probably would ever make again. Like, I only had those particular 4 designs made in the 4x6. Definitely don't plan on ever doing it again. And I only sold 3 of like my 8.5x11 prints. I sold 1 keychain, and I sold 2 of my small originals, because those I could still put out, which my small originals are my ATCs, or the artist trading cards. Again, they're like 2.5x3.5. They're very small. And they're fairly cheap, because again, they're so small. So yeah, I did sell 2 of those, because that was one thing that, as far as my originals go, that I could actually have on the table. So that was nice. So yeah, again, I'm very glad that I broke even with it, because definitely like halfway through the day, I was very worried that I was not going to. So that's about what I could say for it, because it's like, I know that I'm very passionate when I talk about like the negatives, but it was all right. Would I ever do this again? Definitely not that one. They do have another one that they do in Virginia Beach, and I usually do a lot of Virginia Beach ones, but I don't really know. Like, again, I was like sitting there, I was like considering it, because again, it's very much like you immediately pay and you book that spot. So I was thinking about it, and then I kind of like turned to my partner, because my partner always does these with me, and it's like, he put it to me like this, like, is it worth $50 profit essentially for 8 hours? I'm like, fuck no. So again, it's more so just an issue of like, I don't think for me, with the amount of profit, with the amount of time and effort I have to put in to do it, with the way that setup was, and again, that's the only thing I have to go off. I'm expecting that setup is probably not too different from what they do at the other locations. So, and I don't like it. I really, really did not like it. I also, yes, I'm a little pissed off. I mean, maybe not pissed off is the right word. I'm pretty annoyed at the fact that they said it was a 6-foot table and it clearly was not a 6-foot table. All right, I've definitely gone to other cons where it's like, yeah, like I had one table where it was like, it was definitely like just at 6 foot. I've had other times like the same exact con where it's like, oh, this is almost like an 8-foot table. Like, this is a lot more space than I was expecting to be working with. But I've never had it be where the table was definitely smaller than what they were saying it was going to be. So again, that just kind of dips into the potential of what I can sell, because I just don't have the room on the table to do it. And I don't want to like piss off my neighbors or something by trying to like slightly extend something out. It's like, that's fucked up. I would never do that, especially in a situation with like that. That was horrible table setup. And I know I'm not the only one who thought that, because the other neighbor on my other side was definitely like, I kind of overheard like, how are we going to set this up? Like, where are we going to be able to put this? Because they had like a big button display, they had pillows, so it's like they were kind of scrapped too for their stuff. And they also had like what's it called? It was basically like a gacha machine too that had to sit on the table as well. So again, that takes up almost like a quarter of your table space. So yeah, probably would never do that one again. As of right now, my plan for like my whole thing this year was, because I only started doing the tabling last year in 2023, and I did like four events. This year I was like, I want to do at least 5 events. I definitely did way more than 5 events, but that was my goal. It's like I wanted to do as many events as I could get into that was feasible for me, and I definitely did that. But I definitely learned that there is a lot of misses, and I just think the convention scene is not necessarily what it was before COVID. I think it's a lot more difficult now. I think, again, for me, it's more of a marketing thing where it's like I get to go out, I get to show people my art, they get to see it, and that hopefully brings more eyes onto what I do online. Than necessarily, again, my main goal is to at least break even with my table. But there's a certain limit to what I will accept for that, especially given the time sink. I think that's the bigger thing, is like just how much time I have to, sacrifice to do these things. Because again, they're usually like a round trip. It's probably like 10 to 11 hours of time sunk into something like for a 1-day one, not to mention a 2-day or a 3-day. So that's my thing. It's like, I factor in all of those things with how I approach this. So for 2025, my idea is only to do and try to get back into the conventions that I had more success with and I felt were more worth my time. So yeah, you will definitely probably see me at less cons next year. So if you see me post about it, that, hey, I'm going to be at this one, and you really wanted to buy something from me in person, then I highly recommend you mark it on your calendar and show up to those ones if, again, you want to come and purchase stuff from me in person. The other thing I'm working on is obviously my website. I mentioned that in a previous vlog. So there will be an online shop. It will probably initially only be open to the United States shoppers. I have to figure out how to do the international stuff. That's a whole messy thing that confuses the hell out of me. Shipping and all that is a whole aspect of this that I don't like. Like, I can already tell you, it stresses me out because I just don't know. I feel like it's definitely a thing that I'm just gonna learn from experience of doing it. So yeah, that's my little ramble about this last event for this year. So yeah, we'll just see what the rest of the rest of this month and the last month of this year, December, will bring. Some other things that I'll do a video, scratch that, I'll do a video where I talk about my goals. I'll kind of review my goals from like that I was successful with from this year and what I'm planning on doing for 2025. Like, I think I'll do that as its own video. So if you guys are curious about how I do my goal planning or my, tasks that I have in mind for the year and stuff, let me know in the comments. But with that, let's go on with the rest of November. Bye-bye.
After my little rant about the con, we got a shot of the moon since it was pretty bright. Of course, I made some soup. I'm always making soup all the damn time. And then I went out for dinner with some work friends. It was very good. It was like a lamb shank or something, but it was at a winery place that I'd never been to, so that was cool. And of course, some more food clips of, I really wanted to do fajitas one night, so I was in charge of cooking that. Did, the onions, the peppers, the chicken, and even heated up some corn tortillas on one of the little smaller cast iron skillets that we have. And they came out all right. I'll need to attempt it again at a different point in time, but yeah.
Hi guys. So today is November 24th. It is a Sunday, so it's a day off. And I thought I'd just check in and kind of go over what my plan is for today and just generally what's been going on. Obviously, I think the last time that I talked in this particular vlog, again, I don't know why I started calling these vlogs, because they're kind of more like visual diaries, I think is more appropriate, but I'm just going to stick with calling it a vlog because that's what I started calling it. But yeah, I think the last time I talked to the camera was talking about that convention that I did on the 17th. Which, again, you already heard me talk about that, so I'm not going to talk about it again. But tomorrow is, of course, Mercury retrograde, for any of those who follow, like, astrology, what's happening in the sky and stuff like that. Obviously, I do. It isn't obvious by all the tarot decks and oracle decks that I collect, So, with it being Mercury retrograde, some of my plans... And it's a Mercury retrograde is extending from starting again tomorrow, Monday, November 25th, and it lasts until I think like midway through December. I can't remember the exact date, but part of the things that you want to do during Mercury retrograde is, revisit things that you tried to do in the past but didn't finish, projects that are unfinished. Again, retrying anything that you did attempt to do in the past. Generally, that's the idea. You don't necessarily want to start new things during this time. But yeah, so I'm definitely thinking about cleaning a lot of things, organizing things. I've been really wanting to go through all my clothes and get rid of some of the clothes that I have because I just have too many. Too many in the sense that I don't have the space for them. There's a good portion of stuff that I just don't wear regularly, so it's like, do I need it to be taking up all that real estate? So yeah, I'll be working on that. As far as like artwork project wise, I definitely need to work on a collab piece for the end of December. It's Ice Queen is the theme for it, so I'm actually revisiting some, I guess at this point they should be OCs, they're characters of mine, because I drew the original one back in probably like 2016 or even before that. I'll have to go and look at the artwork and see what I put for the date on it. Actually, I have that sketchbook somewhere up here. I see it right there. And then I redrew them, I think in 2020, maybe it was 2020, although that was a not safe for work version of the two characters. So this time I will be drawing them again, a little bit similar, not really similar at all, but a little bit more in the style of the first one. I probably will still do like a not safe for work version of it, aka it's just gonna have some nudity in it. It's not really heavy, not safe for work like some of my other artwork is. So I have to work on that. And then I am going to try to do another tarot reading video and have that posted in this month, in sort of this last week. So I definitely need to record that. Again, I'm trying to do more of those videos again, just because they're fun to do when I'm definitely when I'm in the mood for them. And also it's like, again, I have this collection. I want to, use it. And an easy way to use it is doing videos with them. So it's fun doing like little theme videos and all that. So that's the plan right now. I also have to go and I need to wrap a present for a birthday. So I need to get that done as well. So we'll just see what the rest of this month, what other little clips I insert in here. Probably a few more clips from today. Just kind of working, puttering around my office and stuff like that. So yeah, let's get on with it.
So yeah, overall, I did spend a lot of November. I think I started kind of putting around with the idea that I do heavily in December, which was a separate video series of kind of redoing, or not redoing, but filling a final sketchbook. You can watch all of those videos on my channel, because I'm doing this voiceover well after the fact. But yeah, I just mostly spend the rest of this month just kind of starting those projects that I talked about, like cleaning out my closets, rearranging some things, again, trying to finish projects I had already started beforehand. And of course, the collab piece that I already mentioned, which came out very nice. And I was very proud of myself that was the last piece I did for 2024. But yeah. I also wanted to show off my new little members of my office with these really cute Abbey Toad little rugs. And we wrap up November clips here with another meal that we cooked up, which was essentially just a kind of pasta salad with roasted veggies, broccoli, butternut squash. Can't really remember what else, the onions. So yeah, that was November. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will get into December.